Good morning, School of Light. We're in Second Chronicles, chapter 10. Yesterday we read about the Queen of Sheba visiting Solomon, and today we read about Israel rebelling against Rehoboam. Rehoboam, and it was after Solomon's death. Rehoboam went to Shechem, for all the Israelites had gone there to make him king. When Jeroboam, son of Nebat, heard this, he was in Egypt, where he had fled from King Solomon. He returned from Egypt, so they sent for Jeroboam. He and all of Israel went to Rehoboam and said to him, "Your father put a heavy yoke on us, but now lighten the harsh labor and heavy yoke he put on us, and we will serve you." Rehoboam answered, "Come back to me in 3 days." So the people went away. Then King Rehoboam consulted the elders who had served his father Solomon during his lifetime. "How would you advise me to answer these people?" he asked. They replied, "If you will be kind to these people and please them and give them a favorable answer, they will always be your servants." But Rehoboam rejected the advice of the elders that the elders gave him and consulted the young men who had grown up with him and were serving him. He asked them, "What is your advice? How should we answer these people who say to me, 'Lighten the yoke your father has put on us'?" The young men who had grown up with him replied, "Tell the people who have said this to you, 'Your father put a heavy yoke on us, but you, please make our yoke light. Tell them that my little finger is thicker than my father's waist. My father laid on you a heavy yoke. I will make it even heavier. My father scourged you with whips. I will scourge you with scorpions." 3 days later, Jeroboam and all the people returned to Rehoboam, as the king had said, "Come back to me in 3 days." The king answered them harshly, rejecting the advice of the elders. He followed the advice of the young men and said, "My father made your yoke heavy. I will make it even heavier. My father scourged you with whips. I will scourge you with scorpions." So the king did not listen to the people, for this turn of events was from God, to fulfill the word the Lord had spoken to Jeroboam, son of Nebat, through Ahijah the Shilonite. When all of Israel saw that the king refused to listen to them, they answered the king, "What share do we have in David? What part in Jesse's son? To your tents, O Israel. Look after your own house, O David." So all the Israelites went home. But as for the Israelites who were living in the towns of Judah, Rehoboam still ruled over them. King Rehoboam sent out Adoniram, who was in charge of forced labor, but the Israelites stoned him to death. King Rehoboam, however, managed to get into his chariot and escape to Jerusalem. So Israel has been in rebellion against the house of David to this day. Let's go back just to the last paragraph of chapter 9 before chapter 10, where Solomon dies. As for the other events of Solomon's reign, are they not written in the records of Nathan the prophet, and the prophecy of Ahijah, and the Shilonite, and the visions of Iddo and the seer concerning Jeroboam, son of Nebat? Solomon reigned in Jerusalem over Israel for 40 years. Then he rested with his fathers and was buried in the city of David, his father. And Rehoboam, his son, succeeded him as king. So this is King Solomon's son, who is taking advice from youngsters and ignoring the advice of the elders. Not the good. We have the wisest king, and then his son, who you could say is pretty foolish, to ignore the elders' wisdom and their advice, and it ended up really bad. So that was a really short chapter, less than 5 minutes. Let's see if there's one more thing I can find in chapter 10. When Israel saw the king refused to listen to them, they answered the king, "What share do we have in David? What part in Jesse's son? To your tents, O Israel. Look after your own house, O David." Very similar almost to today's political climate. In America, we have a president that's not doing good for the people. And maybe we need to say and realize that this president is not listening to us? And then to answer him, what share do we have in this Biden administration? What part in Jesse's son? What part in Biden's son? Because he's making tons of money, right? To your chancellors or to your own households, look after your own house. Oh, David, which would be, oh, America. If you want Bible studies, we got them. So many of them, we got to give them out. So ask and you shall receive. We'll get them to you free of charge. Bye.